Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Sentinel. His hands gripped the metal railing as he read the message from the Galactic Council for the third time. The words made his blood boil with anger he could barely control. 3 years. For 3 long years, humanity had tried to play by their rules. The Council had taken Earth's colonies one by one. They claimed human discoveries as their own work. They treated humans like children who needed constant supervision. Every time Earth tried to negotiate, the Council demanded more. But this new demand was different. This one crossed every line that mattered. Captain Linda Shaw turned from her station. Her face showed the same anger that burned inside Daniel. "Sir, they want us to shut down every warship we have, every defense station, every armed satellite in orbit. They're giving us 30 days to comply." Daniel felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. He had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years. He had fought pirates in the outer colonies. He had talked his way out of conflicts with hostile alien species. He always believed that peaceful solutions were possible if both sides wanted them. Now he knew the truth. The Galactic Council did not want peace. They wanted control. Lieutenant Jake Morrison looked up from his console. "Admiral, there's more bad news. The Vrexian Empire has moved battle groups to our 3 remaining colony systems. The Council says it's for peacekeeping." Daniel laughed bitterly. Peacekeeping. That was their word for occupation. He opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Within minutes, Fleet Admiral Gregory Hayes appeared on the screen. Behind him stood President Caroline Mitchell and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. All of them looked tired and angry. "We've all seen their demand," President Mitchell said. Her voice was calm, but Daniel could hear the steel underneath. "I've called an emergency meeting with all the planetary leaders. We need to make a decision." Daniel took a deep breath. "Madam President, I think we've been making decisions for 3 years now. Every time we gave them what they wanted, they just demanded more. Every time we showed restraint, they thought we were weak." "What are you saying, Admiral?" Gregory asked, though his expression showed he already knew the answer. "I'm saying we need to stop asking for permission to exist. The Council fears what humanity can become. Maybe it's time we showed them why that fear is justified." President Mitchell's face remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. "Admiral Carter, if we refuse, they will see it as a declaration of war. They already treat us like enemies, Madam President. The only difference is we've been fighting with both hands tied behind our backs. I say we untie them." The screen split as more faces joined the call. Governor Paul Henderson from Mars Colony appeared, along with Commander Helen Brooks from the lunar shipyards. Leaders from every human settlement in space joined the conference. The next 6 hours would decide the future of the human race. The debate was fierce. Some leaders wanted to keep negotiating. They feared that war would destroy everything humanity had built in space. Others argued that surrender would be worse than destruction. At least in war, humanity would die fighting for their freedom. Governor Henderson from Mars spoke with passion. "My grandparents came to Mars with nothing but hope and determination. They built a home on a dead world. I will not tell their grandchildren that we gave up that home without a fight." Commander Brooks added her voice. "The shipyards have been building more than civilian vessels. We've been preparing for this day since the Council first showed their true colors. We have weapons they don't know about, ships they've never seen. If we're going to fight, we can win." One by one, the leaders made their choice. Earth would not disarm. More than that, humanity would no longer accept the Council's authority. If the aliens wanted to treat humans as lesser beings, they would learn a painful lesson about underestimating their opponents. President Mitchell called for a final vote. The result was unanimous. "Then it's decided," she said. "Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council's authority. All human colonies are declared independent territories. Any attempt by the Council to enforce their will on human space will be met with military force. Daniel felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that the decision was finally made. Fear for what would come next. But mostly, he felt a fierce pride in his species. Humanity had tried the peaceful path. They had compromised and negotiated and bent over backwards to fit into galactic society. Now they would show the galaxy what humans looked like when they stopped holding back. After the transmission ended, Daniel turned to his crew. Every face on the bridge showed the same determination he felt. "Send a message to all Earth ships," he ordered. "Operation Defiance is now active. Every captain is authorized to defend human territory by any means necessary. No more running, no more backing down. If the Council wants a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." Linda Shaw smiled grimly as she sent the orders. "Sir, we're receiving responses from ships across the system. They're all ready." "Good," Daniel said, "because ready or not, this is happening. The Council pushed us too far. Now they're going to learn what happens when you corner a species that evolved as hunters." Jake Morrison pulled up tactical displays. "Sir, I'm tracking Council ships near our colonies. Should we engage?" "Not yet," Daniel replied. "Let them make the first move. When they do, we hit them so hard they'll think twice about ever threatening humanity again." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what was about to happen. For 3 years, humanity had endured insults and restrictions. They had swallowed their pride and accepted humiliation. They had hoped that patience and diplomacy would win them respect. Those days were over. Daniel looked out at the stars through the view screen. Somewhere out there, the Council was preparing to enforce their demands. They expected humanity to surrender like all the other species they had bullied into submission. They were in for a surprise. "All stations! Battle stations!" Daniel ordered. "Charge weapons! Raise shields! Prepare for combat operations! The age of human submission ends today. The age of human retribution begins now." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as systems powered up for war. In shipyards across human space, captains gave similar orders. On Earth, hidden weapons facilities came online for the first time in years. On Mars and the outer colonies, militia forces armed themselves. Humanity was done asking for respect. They were going to take it. Daniel sent one final message to the Galactic Council. It was short and simple. "To the Galactic Council, humanity rejects your authority. Leave our space immediately or face the consequences. This is your only warning." He did not expect them to listen. The Council was too arrogant, too certain of their superiority. They would come with overwhelming force, confident that humanity would break under the pressure. Let them come, Daniel thought. Let them bring their fleets and their threats. They would learn that humans did not break. They bent, they adapted, and they fought back harder than anyone expected. The Council had made a fatal error. They had mistaken humanity's desire for peace as inability to wage war. Now they would pay for that mistake with blood and steel. Daniel Carter had spent his entire career trying to avoid this moment. But now that it had arrived, he felt a strange sense of clarity. There was no more doubt, no more second-guessing. The path forward was clear. Humanity would be free, or humanity would burn the galaxy trying. Dr. Stephen Phillips walked through the corridors of Facility 7. The research base sat 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado mountains. Around him, engineers and scientists rushed through hallways that had been quiet for years. Now the entire facility buzzed with urgent activity. General Lisa Freeman arrived just after dawn. Despite the early hour, her uniform looked perfect. She studied the holographic displays that Stephen pulled up for her. Row after row of weapons systems appeared in the air between them. "How many can we activate?" Lisa asked. Stephen scrolled through the inventory lists. "The Council made us promise to stop developing certain technologies." They watched us shut down our weapons programs, but they never made us destroy what we had already built. Lisa's eyes widened as she looked at the list. Plasma cannons that could cut through battle cruiser armor like paper. Railguns that fired projectiles at incredible speeds. Antimatter torpedoes with yields that made nuclear weapons look like toys. "This is incredible," Lisa said quietly. "How did we hide all this?" When the Council first made contact, humanity had already spent 50 years preparing for hostile aliens, Stephen explained. Every science fiction writer imagined this scenario. Every military planner prepared for it. We built weapons for wars we hoped would never happen. And then the Council arrived and seemed friendly, Lisa finished his thought. So we mothballed everything to show we wanted peace. Exactly. But we never destroyed anything. And we never stopped improving the designs in secret. Stephen brought up more files. These are the projects we've worked on for the last 3 years. Since it became clear the Council would never treat us as equals. The General studied the specifications with growing satisfaction. Stealth ships that no known sensor could detect. Cyber warfare programs designed to infiltrate alien computer systems. Biological weapons tailored for each Council species. "How soon can we deploy all this?" Lisa asked. "The mothballed weapons can be ready in 72 hours. The newer technology needs 2 more weeks." Stephen met her gaze directly. "General, once we reveal this arsenal, there's no going back. The Council will know we've been preparing to fight them." "Good," Lisa replied firmly. "Let them know. Humanity is finished being afraid." Similar scenes played out across human space. On Mars, factories that had been making mining equipment switched to building war machines. In the asteroid belt, refineries increased production of rare metals needed for advanced weapons. On Europa Station, scientists who studied alien life now weaponized their knowledge. Captain Frank Murphy commanded the construction yards orbiting Saturn's moon Titan. For 5 years, his facility had built civilian transport ships under Council observation. But those transport ships hid a secret. The hulls had been designed with hidden weapon compartments. The civilian reactors could be pushed to military power levels with simple modifications. "How many ships are ready?" Frank asked his chief engineer, Patricia Lopez. 37 can be converted right now," she answered. "Another 62 within a month. They won't match dedicated warships, but they'll surprise the Council." Frank nodded with satisfaction. "The Council thinks they know our capabilities because they watched our approved shipyards. They have no idea how many vessels we've been building out here, far from their spying." "Sir, we're getting encrypted messages from other hidden facilities," the communications officer reported. "Europa, Ganymede, the Kuiper Belt stations, everyone is coming online." Frank allowed himself a tight smile. "Signal all stations. Operation Reclamation is approved. Begin the awakening." Across dozens of secret facilities and hundreds of hidden caches, humanity's true military strength began to wake up. The Council had forced humans to dismantle their visible defenses. They never realized that humans had spent their entire history preparing for worst-case scenarios. On Earth's moon, Commander Helen Brooks oversaw the activation of weapon systems hidden inside what appeared to be civilian facilities. Mining operations concealed missile batteries. Research stations hid railgun emplacements. Even the tourist centers had defense systems built into their foundations. "The Council inspectors walked right past these installations dozens of times," Helen said to her staff. "They saw what they expected to see. They never looked deeper." Lieutenant Chris Bailey pulled up tactical maps. "Ma'am, we're receiving status reports from all hidden installations across the solar system. 90% are online and operational. And the other 10%? Will be ready within 48 hours. Some systems just need more time to power up after being dormant for so long." Helen studied the maps with satisfaction. Every planet, Every moon, every major asteroid in human space now bristled with weapons the Council knew nothing about. When the aliens came expecting easy conquest, they would find a fortress. Back at Facility 7, Dr. Stephen Phillips worked with his team to prepare the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. These were not the mothballed systems from earlier years. These were cutting-edge technologies developed in complete secrecy. "This is the quantum disruption torpedo," Stephen explained to General Lisa Freeman. "It doesn't just destroy the target. It tears a hole in space-time at the molecular level. Anything caught in the effect radius simply ceases to exist." Lisa whistled softly. "How many do we have?" "Enough to make the Council regret coming to our system. But Lisa, these weapons are terrifying. Once we use them, other species will fear us." "They should fear us," Lisa replied without hesitation. "Fear creates respect. Respect creates peace. The Council never feared humanity, so they never respected us. That changes now." On Mars, Governor Paul Henderson watched as the Red Planet's defenses came online. Underground bunkers opened to reveal artillery that could hit targets in orbit. Missile silos that had been disguised as water tanks armed their payloads. Fighter craft hidden in caves prepared for launch. "The Council thought Mars was defenseless," Paul said to his military advisor, Colonel Susan Martinez. "They thought we were just farmers and miners." Susan smiled coldly. "Farmers and miners who've been preparing for war since the day the Council took our first colony from us. They're going to learn that Martians don't surrender." Across human space, the pattern repeated. Every colony, every station, every outpost revealed weapons and defenses that had been hidden for years. The Council had been watching humanity's military strength decline, never realizing they were only seeing what humans wanted them to see. In the asteroid belt, miners who worked for private companies activated combat systems built into their vessels. Each mining ship carried enough firepower to threaten a Council frigate. With thousands of such ships, they formed an irregular navy that could swarm enemy forces. Ben Cooper commanded one such mining vessel. His crew had been waiting for this day for 2 years. "Finally," he said as the activation codes came through, "I'm tired of running from Council patrols. Time to show them what happens when they push ordinary people too far." His crew cheered. They were miners, not soldiers, but they were also humans who had suffered under Council restrictions. Now they would fight for their freedom alongside the military. Dr. Stephen Phillips stood in Facility 7's main control room as systems across human space reported ready status. General Lisa Freeman stood beside him, watching the displays fill with green indicators. "This is it," Stephen said quietly. "Once we commit to this, there's no peaceful resolution. The Council will never forgive us for this deception." "They never planned to treat us fairly anyway," Lisa replied. "We tried their way for 3 years. It got us nowhere. Now we try it humanity's way." Stephen nodded slowly. Humanity's way. "Fighting tooth and nail for every inch of ground, never surrendering, never backing down. Our ancestors would be proud." "Or horrified," Lisa added. "But they would understand. Sometimes peace is worth fighting for. Sometimes freedom requires sacrifice." The final status reports came in. Every hidden weapon was online. Every secret facility was operational. Every disguised warship was ready for combat. Humanity had spent 3 years preparing for this moment while pretending to accept Council authority. General Lisa Freeman sent the confirmation to Earth Command. "All systems operational. Humanity's true military strength is now active and awaiting orders." Admiral Daniel Carter received the message aboard the Sentinel. He had been waiting for this confirmation. Now that it arrived, he felt the full weight of what was about to happen. "Send the signal to all forces," Daniel ordered. "The Council is coming. When they arrive, they expect to find us helpless. Instead, they'll find an enemy that's been preparing for this fight since the day we met them. Show them no mercy. make them regret ever threatening humanity. Throughout human space, captains and commanders received the order. In hidden bases and disguised facilities, in civilian ships with military hearts, and in fortresses that looked like simple colonies, humanity prepared for war. The Council thought they knew human capabilities. They thought humanity was weak and divided. They thought the destruction of Earth's visible fleet had left humans defenseless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Humanity had not been idle during 3 years of apparent submission. They had been preparing, building, and planning for the day when peaceful options ran out. That day had arrived. The arsenal was awake. The weapons were ready. All that remained was for the Council to make their move. They would not have to wait long. The Vrexian battle group settled into orbit around New Hope Colony with absolute confidence. Commander Zexthar looked down at the human settlement from the bridge of his dreadnought. 300,000 humans lived on that world, farming and mining under Council supervision. Soon they would learn what happened to species that defied the galactic order. "Sir, detecting multiple drive signatures," his sensor operator reported. 15 contacts emerging from hyperspace. Zexathar's eyes narrowed with amusement. Human ships, no doubt coming to beg for mercy. "Identify them." "They match civilian transport vessels," the operator replied. "They're sending us a transmission." "Let them speak," Zexthar said with contempt. The view screen activated, showing a human female in a simple ship captain's uniform. "This is Captain Margaret Collins of the Free Trader Alliance. You are ordered to leave New Hope space immediately." Zexthar laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "You dare give orders to the Vrexian Empire? Your own council has abandoned you, human. Power down your vessels and prepare to be boarded." Margaret's expression remained calm. "We gave you a chance to leave. That's more courtesy than you showed us." She glanced off screen. "Commence operation unveiling." The 15 transport ships suddenly changed. Armor plating that looked dull and civilian transformed, revealing military-grade hull sections underneath. Weapons ports opened along their sides. Power signatures jumped to military levels. "Multiple weapons lock detected," the Vrexian sensor operator said, alarm creeping into his voice. "Sir, those aren't transports. They're warships disguised as civilian vessels." Before Zexthar could give orders, the human ships opened fire. Railgun projectiles moving at terrifying speeds punched straight through Vrexian shields. Plasma beams carved glowing trenches through battlecruiser armor. The Vrexian formation scattered in confusion. "Return fire!" Zexthar roared. "Destroy them all!" But the human ships moved with precision that shocked him. They fought like a single organism, covering each other perfectly. They focused their fire on wounded vessels, destroying them quickly before moving to the next target. Within minutes, 3 Vrexian ships were disabled hulks drifting in space. 2 more vented atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. "Reinforcements arriving," the sensor operator announced in panic. "More human vessels. These are reading as military frigates." Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner led the second wave from the bridge of the Earth defense ship Defiant. His squadron of 8 frigates had been hiding in the system's outer regions, waiting for this exact moment. "All ships, weapons free," Alex ordered calmly. "Target their command ship. End this quickly." The frigates coordinated their assault with deadly efficiency. Missiles saturated the Vrexian point defenses while particle beams carved through their shields. Zexthar's dreadnought, built to intimidate primitive species, suddenly found itself fighting for survival. "Shields at 40%, Zexathar's engineer reported in terror. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. Engineering section is not responding." "Impossible," Zexthar hissed. "The humans were disarmed. We watched the Council force them to decommission their fleet. The ships you saw us decommission were obsolete models we planned to scrap anyway," Margaret Collins said over an open channel. "Did you really think we would leave ourselves defenseless? Humans have been preparing for treachery since we learned to walk upright." We just needed you to reveal your true intentions first. The remaining Vrexian ships tried to retreat. The human forces let them go, but not before disabling their faster-than-light drives with precise shots. They would have to limp home on sublight engines, taking months to return. "Let them tell the Council what happened here," Alex said to his crew. "Let the message spread. Humanity is no longer prey." Across human space, similar battles erupted. At every colony the Council had targeted for occupation, human forces emerged from hiding to defend their homes. Council peacekeeping fleets, used to intimidating compliant species, found themselves outmatched by human determination and innovation. At Europa Colony, Commander Helen Brooks led the defense from her command station buried in the ice. "Council ships entering weapons range," her tactical officer reported. "Activate all defense platforms," Helen ordered. "Show them what we've been building under their noses." What the Council thought were simple mining stations suddenly revealed themselves as armed fortresses. Missiles launched from concealed silos hidden in the ice. Rail guns that had been disguised as communications towers opened fire. The attacking force found itself in a killing field. "They're breaking off," the tactical officer reported. "Enemy fleet is retreating." "Don't let them regroup," Helen commanded. "All fighters, pursue and harass. Make sure they don't come back." On Earth, Admiral Daniel Carter received battle reports from every front. "All colonies have successfully repelled Council forces," Lieutenant Jake Morrison reported. "Casualties are minimal on our side. The Council fleets suffered heavy losses." Daniel felt no satisfaction in the victory, only grim determination. This was just the first test. The Council will send more ships, bigger fleets. They won't accept these defeats without response. "What are your orders, sir?" Captain Linda Shaw asked. "Send a message to every Council member species. Tell them that humanity is withdrawing from Council authority effective immediately. Our colonies are now independent human territories under Earth's protection. Any attempt to reimpose Council rule will be met with overwhelming force." Jake hesitated. "Sir, that's essentially a declaration of war against the entire Galactic Council." "No," Daniel corrected him. "It's a declaration of independence. If they choose to interpret it as war, that's their decision. But we're done asking permission to exist freely." The message went out across faster-than-light communication networks. Within hours, every species in the galaxy received humanity's declaration. The response was immediate and chaotic. Some Council members called for total war against the humans. Others urged caution, pointing out that humanity had clearly been preparing for this confrontation. A few even suggested that perhaps the Council had pushed too hard, and humans deserved respect as equals. At New Hope Colony, Margaret Collins supervised repairs to her ship. Despite the victory, several vessels had taken damage. 5 human ships had been destroyed, taking their crews with them. "We won," her first officer said quietly. "But we paid for it." "Freedom always costs blood," Margaret replied. "Our ancestors learned that lesson many times throughout human history. Now we're learning it again among the stars." Alex Turner docked his frigate at New Hope's orbital station. He met with Margaret and the other captains who had fought in the battle. They were exhausted, but determined. "The Council expected us to fold without a fight," Alex said to the assembled group. "They thought 3 years of restrictions had broken our spirit. They were wrong." "But this is just the beginning," Margaret added. "They'll come back with more ships, better prepared. We need to use this time to strengthen our defenses and coordinate our response." Back on Earth, President Caroline Mitchell addressed the planet in a historic broadcast. Billions of humans watched as their leader spoke with quiet strength. "Today, humanity took a stand. For 3 years, we tried to find a peaceful path forward with the Galactic Council. We compromised. We negotiated. We hoped that patience would earn us respect. Instead, we faced increasing restrictions and demands that threatened our very survival as a free species." She paused, letting her words sink in. Today, that changes. Humanity will no longer accept the Council's authority. We will govern ourselves, protect ourselves, and make our own choices about our future. We did not seek this conflict, but we will not back down from it. The broadcast ended, but its impact rippled across human space. In cities and colonies, in space stations and mining outposts, humans felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. They had stood up to galactic power and won the first round, but everyone knew harder battles lay ahead. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, looking out at Earth below. His homeworld looked peaceful from orbit, but he knew that appearance was deceptive. Across the planet, military forces prepared for the coming storm. Factories worked around the clock, producing weapons and ammunition. Scientists raced to complete new defensive technologies. "Sir, we're receiving reports that Council forces are massing at the galactic frontier," Jake Morrison reported. "Intelligence suggests they're preparing a major offensive." "How long do we have?" Daniel asked. "Best estimate is 2 weeks. They're gathering ships from every member species. This won't be small battle groups like we face today. This will be an armada." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we use every minute of those 2 weeks to prepare. Contact all colonial governors. I want every defensive system online and every able body ready to fight. If the Council wants war, we'll give them one they'll remember for generations." Linda Shaw approached him quietly. "Do you think we can win, sir? Against the full might of the Council?" Daniel considered the question carefully before answering. "I think we can make them regret starting this fight. Whether that leads to victory or mutual destruction, that's up to them. But one thing is certain. Humanity will never surrender. We'll fight until we win, or until there's nothing left to fight for." Throughout human space, preparations intensified. The first victories had proven that humanity could fight back successfully. Now came the real test. The Council would not underestimate humans again. The next battle would determine whether humanity's Declaration of Independence would stand or fall. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 200 species shouted over each other. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the storm of angry voices. Accusations and demands filled the air in a cacophony of alien languages. Chancellor Vorn Ash of the Calaxian Directorate slammed his gravity hammer against the podium. The resonating boom finally brought some order to the chamber. His crystalline body refracted the lights into patterns across the walls. "The humans have attacked Council peacekeepers and declared independence," Vorn Ash announced coldly. "This aggression cannot be allowed to stand. We must respond with overwhelming force to remind them of their place." Counselor Thexara of the Zynthian Collective rose from her floating platform. "The humans were provoked. For 3 years we stripped their rights away. We took their territories. We demanded total disarmament. What species would not resist such treatment?" "They are a young race," Vorn Ash argued. "Barely 100 years into space travel. They must learn to follow the guidance of elder civilizations. That is how the Galactic Order works." "They defeated Vrexian battle groups," Admiral Quexnor of the Draxian military said grimly. "Not through luck, but through superior tactics and hidden technology. Our intelligence was completely wrong about human military capabilities." Representative Nathan Price stood in the human delegation section. He was the only human still in Council space, serving as Earth's ambassador for the past 5 years. He had watched the Council's contempt for humanity grow stronger each year. Now he spoke with a freedom born from knowing his role was ending. "You asked what species would not resist," Nathan said, his voice carrying clearly across the chamber. "Let me tell you about humans. We spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We fought over land, resources, ideas, and beliefs. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. Then we looked up at the stars and decided we were finished fighting among ourselves." What is your point, Ambassador? Vornash asked dismissively. My point is that every war taught us lessons. Lessons in strategy, survival, and adaptation. When we finally reached space, we came prepared. We knew the universe might not welcome us peacefully. We remembered our history. Nathan pulled up holographic displays showing human military history. Ancient wars, modern conflicts, technological developments. The Council made two critical mistakes. First, you assumed that because we wanted peace, we were incapable of war. Second, you believed that because you watched us decommission our visible fleet, we had no other weapons. Are you threatening this council? Vornash demanded. I'm explaining reality, Nathan replied calmly. Humanity spent 3 years hoping diplomacy would work. We compromised. We negotiated. We tried to find common ground. But you saw every peaceful gesture as weakness, so now we're finished compromising. Admiral Quexnor stepped forward. The human speaks truth. Our strategic assessment was deeply flawed. We judged their capabilities based only on what they showed us. We never considered they might hide their true strength. Deception is not honorable, another counselor protested. Survival isn't about honor, Nathan shot back. It's about adaptation, and humans are exceptional at adapting to threats. The chamber erupted in debate again. Some species demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others urged caution, warning that humans had clearly prepared for this confrontation. A few even suggested negotiating a new arrangement that treated humanity as equals rather than subjects. Vornash silenced them all with another strike of his hammer. The Council will authorize a military expedition to the Sol system. We will demonstrate the consequences of defying galactic authority. The humans will learn their lesson. Nathan gathered his belongings slowly. You're making another mistake, Chancellor. You assume Earth is unprepared for your attack. But we've been preparing for this exact scenario since the day we met you. He stood and walked toward the exit. I am resigning as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. Humanity no longer recognizes your authority over our affairs. Consider this your only warning. Leave us alone, or face consequences you cannot imagine. As Nathan left the chamber, he transmitted a coded message to Earth. The Council was mobilizing for war. The real test was coming. On Earth, Admiral Daniel Carter received Nathan's warning in the command center beneath Geneva. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, station, and defense platform across the solar system. They're coming, he announced to the assembled commanders on the communication screens. Intelligence estimates put their invasion force at over 3,000 ships, more than 20 times what we faced at the colonies. Governor Paul Henderson appeared on one screen from Mars. Can we hold against those numbers? We're not going to just hold, Daniel replied with a grim smile. We're going to teach them why invading a human homeworld is suicide. General Lisa Freeman joined the conference from her command post. Operation Homecoming is ready. Every secret facility, every hidden weapon, every contingency plan from the last 3 years is now active. Captain Margaret Collins added her voice from New Hope Colony. The outer colonies are ready too. If the Council wants a war, we'll fight them on every front simultaneously. Daniel took a deep breath. Then let's show the galaxy what humanity looks like when we stop being nice. All stations, initiate Protocol Omega. Time to remind the Council why predator species make terrible victims. Across human space, final preparations began with renewed intensity. Civilians evacuated from potential combat zones. Defense platforms armed their weapons. Ships that had been hiding in deep space moved into position. Soldiers said goodbye to their families, knowing many would not return. On Mars, Governor Paul Henderson addressed his people. We face the largest military force the galaxy has seen in 1,000 years. They come to conquer us, to break our spirit, to force us back into submission. But we are Martians. Our ancestors turned a dead world into a home. We will not surrender that home to anyone. The crowd cheered, fear and determination mixing in their voices. At Facility 7, Dr. Stephen Phillips supervised the final activation of humanity's most advanced weapons. "The quantum disruption torpedoes are ready," he reported to General Lisa Freeman, "as are the singularity mines, the plasma wave generators, and the neural disruption fields." "How many shots do we have?" Lisa asked. "Enough to make the Council's fleet disappear," Stephen replied quietly. "But Lisa, these weapons will terrify other species. Once we use them, the galaxy will fear us." "Better feared than enslaved," Lisa said firmly. "Our ancestors learned that lesson the hard way throughout history. We won't forget it now." Commander Helen Brooks prepared Europa Station for the coming battle. "The ice conceals our strongest defenses," she told her staff. "When the Council fleet arrives, they'll see a simple mining colony. Then we'll show them what's hidden beneath the surface." Lieutenant Chris Bailey coordinated with defense platforms across the solar system. "Every platform is armed and synchronized. The quantum targeting network is online. When we fire, we'll hit them from every angle at once." Admiral Daniel Carter stood alone for a moment, looking at tactical displays showing the vastness of human defenses. 3 years of secret preparation had led to this moment. Every sacrifice, every hidden project, every risk had been building toward the coming battle. He opened a channel to all human forces. To every soldier, every captain, every defender of humanity. The Council is coming with overwhelming force. They believe numbers will crush our spirit. They believe fear will break our resolve. They are wrong. Daniel's voice carried steel determination. We are human. Our ancestors faced extinction more times than we can count, and we survived every time. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived wars that should have destroyed us. We survived because we refused to give up, refused to submit, and refused to be victims. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Council thinks they know us. They think 3 years of watching our visible forces told them everything. They have no idea what we're truly capable of. So when they arrive, we show them. We show them what humanity looks like when pushed too far. We show them what happens when you threaten our homes, our families, and our freedom. Across human space, millions heard those words and felt their resolve harden. Fear remained, but it was tempered by determination. The Council was coming with their armada, confident in their superiority. They would learn that confidence was not the same as truth. Nathan Price arrived back on Earth just as final preparations completed. President Caroline Mitchell met him personally at the spaceport. "Welcome home, Ambassador," she said, "though I suppose that title no longer applies." "No, Madam President," Nathan agreed. "I suspect my diplomatic career has ended. Now I'm just another human waiting to see if we survive what's coming." Caroline's expression remained steady. "We'll survive. And when we do, the galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again. For better or worse, we're about to show them who we really are." The Council's armada was gathering at the edge of known space. 3,000 warships from 50 different species, the largest military force in galactic history. They prepared to crush human resistance and restore Council authority. They had no idea they were sailing into a trap 3 years in the making. The Council's armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in a display meant to inspire terror. 3,000 warships from 50 different species filled the space around them. At the center, Chancellor Vornash commanded from the massive dreadnought Inevitable Justice. He was confident humanity would see this fleet and surrender immediately. Instead, only silence greeted them. "No response to our transmissions," the communications officer reported. "The human defensive network is active, very active." Admiral Quexnor studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "Those aren't just simple defense platforms. Those are fortress stations. Each one has firepower equal to a heavy cruiser, and there are hundreds of them." "They cannot have built so many without our knowledge," Vornash insisted. "They built them for years," Quexnor replied quietly, hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as mining stations, assembled in the empty spaces between planets. We watched their planets while they fortified the void around them. Before Vornash could respond, the human defense grid activated. Hundreds of platforms opened fire at once, coordinated by quantum computers working faster than any biological mind. Railgun projectiles, plasma beams, and missile swarms converged on the Council fleet with mathematical precision. Council shields, designed for normal combat, struggled against the sheer volume of fire. 24 ships took critical damage in the first 30 seconds as projectiles punched through their defenses like they were paper. "Return fire!" Vornash roared. "Destroy those platforms!" But the platforms moved, using gravitational assists from Earth's moon and Mars to change positions rapidly. Council targeting systems calculated firing solutions that became obsolete before weapons could fire. Then the human fleet arrived. Admiral Daniel Carter led 200 warships out from behind Jupiter, where they had been hiding in the gas giant's sensor interference. These were not converted civilian ships. These were purpose-built warships, sleek and deadly, incorporating every advance human science could produce. "All ships, engage freely," Daniel ordered. "Remember your training. Fight smart, fight hard, and show them why humans don't make good victims." The human fleet struck the Council formation with brutal efficiency. Each ship fought with independence and creativity that confused the Council's rigid tactics. Human captains took risks, exploited weaknesses, and adapted to changing situations faster than their enemies could respond. Captain Linda Shaw commanded the Earth defense ship Retribution, a heavy cruiser armed with humanity's deadliest weapons. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "Cut off the head." Lieutenant Jake Morrison coordinated with 3 other cruisers. "Multiple firing solutions ready. Engaging now." Antimatter torpedoes streaked toward inevitable justice, each warhead containing enough power to crack a small moon. Vornash's shields absorbed the first impacts but weakened with each explosion. The 4th torpedo breached the shields completely, detonating against the hull and tearing a massive wound in the dreadnought's side. "Shields down to 30%, Vornash's engineer reported in terror. "Primary weapons offline. We need to withdraw immediately." "No!" Vornash refused to accept reality. "We outnumber them 15-1. We cannot lose to these primitives." "We're not primitives anymore," Admiral Daniel Carter said over an open channel. "We're humanity, and you made the mistake of forcing us to show you what that truly means." Across the battlefield, Council ships found themselves outmatched. Human vessels worked in coordinated groups, concentrating fire to destroy targets quickly before moving to the next. They used tactics the Council had never seen, ramming attacks by drone ships, cyber warfare that turned enemy systems against themselves, and weapons that bent the laws of physics in terrifying ways. Dr. Stephen Phillips watched from Facility 7 as his cyber warfare teams infiltrated Council networks. "We're inside their fleet coordination system," he reported to General Lisa Freeman, "feeding false data and disrupting their communications." "Do it," Lisa ordered without hesitation. Suddenly, the Council fleet's sensors showed human ships everywhere, hundreds more than actually existed. Formation coordination broke down as ships maneuvered to avoid phantom threats. They collided with each other, breaking apart organized battle lines into chaos. Governor Paul Henderson watched from Mars as civilian vessels joined the fight. Thousands of private ships, armed with whatever weapons could be mounted, swarmed Council vessels like angry insects. Each individual ship was weak, but together they overwhelmed point defenses and created devastating confusion. "This is insanity," one of Vornash's officers said in horror. "Their civilians are attacking military warships. They'll all die." "They know that," Admiral Quexnor replied grimly. "And they attack anyway. These humans don't fight for territory or resources. They fight because we threatened their home. There is nothing more dangerous than a species defending their families. The battle raged for 6 brutal hours. Council forces tried every tactic they knew, but humans countered each one. When the Council fleet finally retreated in disorder, they left behind over 800 destroyed ships and thousands more damaged. Human casualties were severe, too. Nearly a quarter of their fleet was destroyed. Tens of thousands were dead, but they had won. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city as news of victory spread. But in the command center, Admiral Daniel Carter felt no joy. He looked at casualty reports, reading names of friends who would never see another sunrise. "Was it worth it?" Captain Margaret Collins asked quietly, her image on the screen from New Hope Colony. "Ask me in 100 years," Daniel replied. "All I know now is that humanity will never bow to anyone again. We paid for our freedom in blood. Now we have to prove we earned it." 3 days later, a transmission reached Earth from the Galactic Council. Chancellor Vornash, speaking from a medical facility with his crystalline form cracked and dimmed, delivered a message that would reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Council recognizes human sovereignty over the Sol system and all established human colonies. Humanity is granted full membership in the Council with equal voting rights. We apologize for our previous treatment of your species. Nathan Price, watching from Earth, allowed himself a bitter smile. They still don't understand. We didn't fight for a seat at their table. We fought for the right to build our own table. President Caroline Mitchell nodded. Then that's what we'll do. Humanity's future will be written by humans, not by aliens who think they know better than we do. Across human space, the rebuilding began. Ships were repaired, defense platforms were reconstructed. The dead were mourned with ceremonies that honored their sacrifice. But underneath the recovery, something fundamental had changed in humanity's relationship with the galaxy. They were no longer supplicants begging for acceptance. They were equals who had earned respect through strength. Captain Frank Murphy returned to his construction yards at Titan with mixed feelings. His facility had lost 30% of its ships in the battle. Good people had died under his command. But they had won something invaluable, proof that humanity could stand against overwhelming odds and prevail. "What do we build now?" his chief engineer, Patricia Lopez, asked. "Everything," Frank replied. "Ships, stations, colonies. We build the future we want, not the future others choose for us." On Mars, Governor Paul Henderson addressed his people again. "We lost friends and family in this war. We paid a terrible price. But we proved something important. We proved that Martians and all humans will fight for their freedom no matter the cost. That's a lesson the galaxy won't forget." The crowd was quieter this time, sobered by losses but still determined. Dr. Stephen Phillips deactivated Facility 7's weapon systems, hoping they would never be needed again, but knowing they probably would be. "We showed the galaxy our teeth," he said to General Lisa Freeman. "Now we have to decide what kind of species we want to be, conquerors or defenders." "Defenders," Lisa replied firmly. "We fight when threatened, but we don't start wars. That's what separates us from the Council." They tried to impose their will through force. We only use force to protect ourselves. Years passed. The Battle of Sol, as it came to be called, became a defining moment in human history. New generations learned about the day humanity stood up to galactic tyranny and won. But the veterans who fought in that battle remembered the cost. Admiral Daniel Carter, now retired, stood on Earth looking up at the stars. He thought about the ships that never came home, the crews who died defending humanity's freedom. He wondered if they would approve of what humanity had become. The galaxy had learned to respect humans, but respect born from fear was a double-edged blade. Some species saw humans as heroes who stood up to oppression. Others saw humans as dangerous warmongers who threatened the established order. Both views held truth. Humanity had not sought war, but they had proven exceptionally skilled at it. They had not wanted to be feared, but they would not apologize for their strength. They had tried peace first, and only fought when given no other choice. The Galactic Council, humbled by defeat, reformed many of their policies. They treated member species with more respect, knowing now that oppression could spark resistance they couldn't contain. The Council's authority diminished as species realized they could say no to unfair demands. In that sense, humanity's stand had freed more than just humans. Captain Linda Shaw, now an admiral herself, trained the next generation of officers. She taught them tactics and strategy, but also emphasized the lessons from the war. Never start a fight, she told her students. But if someone forces you to fight, end it decisively. The Council pushed humanity too far, and we chose retribution instead of submission. That choice defined us as a species. Remember that responsibility. The human colonies expanded, building new worlds and stations throughout their region of space. They traded with other species as equals now, negotiating from a position of strength. Some species remained hostile, but most learned to deal with humans fairly. The weapons that had been revealed during the war remained ready but unused. Humanity hoped they would rust in peace, but kept them maintained just in case. The lessons of the war were too fresh to ignore. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Margaret Collins, retired from military service, wrote a history of the conflict. Her book became required reading across human space. In it, she tried to capture the desperation, the determination, and the cost of humanity's fight for freedom. "We didn't want to be warriors," she wrote in the conclusion. "We wanted to be explorers, scientists, artists, and dreamers. The Council took that choice away when they decided we were unworthy of respect. So we became warriors out of necessity. We hope future generations can return to dreams instead of war, but we taught them how to fight just in case." The galaxy had learned hard lessons about humanity. Never mistake patience for weakness. Never confuse desire for peace with inability to wage war. Never push humans into a corner and expect them to surrender. The Council had pressed too far. Humanity had chosen retribution, and in that choice, they had secured not just survival, but sovereignty. The age of human expansion continued, built on a foundation of blood and steel. The stars were open, the future uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity would face it as free people, bound to no one's authority but their own. That freedom had been purchased at terrible cost. Those who fought the war hoped it would never need to be bought again. But they knew that freedom always required defending, and humanity had proven it would pay any price to remain free.